Hi, I'm Jeremy Tiang, and I'll be reading from my translation of Cocoon by Zhang Yueran, published by World Editions. This book tells the story of two childhood friends who reunite as adults and discover how much they still have in common. It was a pleasure translating this heart-wrenching, atmospheric novel, which deals with the aftermath of the Cultural Revolution, reframing these past events from a millennial perspective. This is the third book I'm translating by Zhang Yueran, and it's been a pleasure to see her voice and the depth of her storytelling evolve with each novel. In 1990, my father resigned from the university, having decided to go into business in Beijing. Just before he left, I met his students for the first time. That night, 7 or 8 of them came to our home. Dad wasn't back yet. His friends were throwing him a farewell dinner at a nearby restaurant. The students filled our tiny living room, their lips compressed and expressions grim, not taking a single bite of the watermelon my mum served them. "We're sorry to disturb you, Mrs. Lee, but we really wanted to say goodbye to the professor," said a girl, her eyes swollen as if she'd been crying for a long time. "Yes," said another student. "You have no idea how kind he's been to us." Mum smiled at him in confusion, uncertain what to say. The boy continued. "Last summer, when we went to Beijing, he was the only one who supported us. And now those people are using that against him." Mum didn't know anything about Dad being punished, though that didn't matter anymore. What worried her was their mention of Beijing. "Will there be any problem with him going to Beijing now?" she asked. The students assured her there wouldn't be, but still she worried. As far as she was concerned, Beijing was just another word on the Xinwenlianbo daily news, like nation or world. In her mind, Beijing was a place to do important things, conferences with leaders of other countries, hosting the Asian Games, inspecting the troops on National Day. And she couldn't imagine actually living there. She urged them to say more about the city, asking if the roads were as wide as she'd seen on TV and if the square was always so crowded. Really, the students had only been to the capital that one time, but they sounded as if they'd spent half their lives there when they told Mum about their 2-week visit. I lurked nonchalantly behind my mother, twisting the arm of my plastic dolly. Round and round, like winding up a gramophone, I sped up as their mood intensified, until all of a sudden the arm slipped out of its socket and flew through the air, landing at a student's feet. They stopped speaking and stared at me, as if they'd only just noticed I existed. Blushing, I walked over hesitantly. A boy took the doll from my hand and, carefully lining up the limb with its cavity, shoved it into place. "Here, stop fiddling with that." He handed it back to me. After that little interruption, the room sank into silence. The air around us seemed to stiffen. Our voltage was low, and the lights kept flickering. Bzzz, bzzz. Dad was drunk by the time he got home, a scarlet miasma of alcohol in the air, like a burning coal sizzling as it consumed him. He stepped through the door, still despondent from having left the previous gathering, only to cheer up instantly when he saw the room full of students. This was the sort of happiness only a drunk person could muster, a hollow enjoyment of bustle. Mum brought him a chair, but he kept staggering around. I worried this would make him look bad, but the students kept gazing at him with the utmost respect, along with a sort of sorrow, as if fully aware of his pain. I was jealous of how well they knew him. They seemed more like his family than Mum and I. "How many times do I have to tell you? My resignation had nothing to do with you." He waggled his finger at them. "I just saw through everything." He shook his head. It's completely meaningless. The students bit their tongues, not saying a word. A girl started weeping quietly. Don't cry, little Feng. You mustn't cry. Dad's voice turned tender. He suddenly sat and stared into space for a moment, then burst out laughing. Let's not hope for anything more, he said. In my memory, that tragic evening concluded with those mysterious words. But actually, that's when Mum dragged me off to bed, while the others kept talking. Thank you.